All right, there it goes. Okay. All right, so Revelation 13. Some more of this fun stuff. I'm telling you, this is stretching my comfort, or I don't want to say abilities, but this is definitely a stretch for me right now with all this stuff. But for understanding, and I'm sure I'm not the first one. As we talked about in the past, some people have, some pastors and other people have studied this book and left the ministry after that and stuff, and so but some people didn't even want to study it, like Martin Luther refused to study the book of Revelation because for whatever reason he just didn't think it was pertinent or whatever, But anyway, but we do know in the end that God wins, and it's been intriguing. It's and here we're getting to the fun stuff now. So last week we saw the dragon. The dragon was Satan, and he was there was a woman that gave birth, and the dragon tried to take the child that was born, the male child that was born, but it was caught up to heaven. And so we talked about what each of these represented. That the woman represented Israel, that the baby was Jesus, but it was his birth and his ascension. It didn't cover any, chapter 12 didn't cover any of his life. And then the dragon, of course, was Satan, and he was trying to, and then we talked about how the woman, it said that the woman would flee to, or Israel would flee to the desert, and would be protected there, and that Satan would try to flood them and all this other stuff and everything. And we don't know exactly where it's believed that, or we don't know exactly where it is that the people of Israel will flee to. A lot of people believe it's Petra, a place in I want to say Sudan over there, but I'm not sure if that's right. But it's a place over there that has, it's carved out through this rock and everything. It's a city that's used to exist, and now it's a tourist thing or whatever and stuff. But they believe that it's going to be there, but we don't know. It's another one of those things that we don't know for sure. The Bible doesn't clearly state. Okay, so now we're gonna go forward here with chapter 13, and we're gonna look and see what happens next. The last thing we saw in chapter 12 was that when the beast, or the dragon, I'm already getting things confused. The dragon, when he couldn't get to the woman, he decided to go after the offspring, all the offspring of the woman, and that would be all the believers, people of Israel, and anybody that believes in Christ and in God, and he decided he was going to go after them and try to destroy them. And so, but we see at the end of chapter 12 is that he is standing by the shore. He's standing on the shore by the sea, and we're going to see why here in a second, and that he's doing that. So, come on, work with me. Here we go. Beast. There is a beast that will rise up out of the sea, and this is verses 1 through 10 that we're going to look at. Start out with today, and then we'll look at the other one. All right. So verses 1 through 10 of chapter 13. Then I saw a beast rising out of the sea. It had 7 heads and 10 horns, with 10 crowns on its horns. And written on each head were the names that blasphemed God. This beast looked like a leopard, but it had the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave the beast its own power and throne and great authority. I saw that one of the heads of the beast seemed wounded beyond recovery, but the fatal wound was healed. The whole world marveled at this miracle and gave allegiance to the beast. They worshipped the dragon for giving the beast such power, and they also worshipped the beast. Who is as great as the beast? They exclaimed. Who is able to fight against him? Then the beast was allowed to speak great blasphemies against God, and he was given authority to do whatever he wanted for 42 months. And he spoke terrible words of blasphemy against God, slandering his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. And the beast was allowed to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And he was given authority to rule over every tribe and people and language and nation. And all the people who belong to this world worship the beast. They are the ones whose names were not written in the book of life that belongs to the Lamb who was slaughtered before the world was made. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Anyone who is destined for prison will be taken to prison. Anyone who is destined to die by the sword will die by the sword. This means that God's holy people must endure persecution patiently and remain faithful. Sounds like a pleasure cruise, doesn't it? All right, so we got the dragon standing by the shore, and standing by the shore. Hello, standing by the sea on the shore, and he's waiting for a creature to rise up out of the sea. Okay, the beast represents the Antichrist. Any question, any doubt about that? We've talked about the Antichrist and what he's going to do and all that stuff. The beast represents the Antichrist. Okay. Now the timing of all this, again, we've gone through a bunch of the judgments and everything, and then we've kind of gone to this intermission where we've kind of gotten a lot of details about other stuff that's not talked about in the judgments, and so the Antichrist and everything is going to come into power, like we've talked about at the beginning. There's in Daniel, there's references, and Ezekiel, there's references to this person that will come into power, and he will set up a kingdom on the earth. And it talks in here that he's given the power to rule the earth and stuff. And so, and here we see that it's just talking about 42 months, this would be like the midpoint of when he turns on the people and that sort of thing and all that. So there's a lot of prophecies in the Old Testament that relate to this in some ways and stuff, and that are kind of tied in with it. But that's the common belief, is that the Antichrist will rise. He will take power peaceably. He will be, everybody will love him and all that stuff, and that's kind of how it's describing him here. And then he will turn. He will show his true colors, and he will attack the people of God and everything like that. Okay, and so, but yes, this is the Antichrist, and so he's gonna take power, and okay. This unique beast matches a description in the Daniel saw. The leopard, the bear, the lion. The only difference is that in Daniel's vision, I believe in chapter 9, I didn't write down exactly where it is, but I believe in Daniel chapter 9, he sees this person, this beast, and this, in Daniel's vision, it had wings as well, wings of an eagle. And we don't see the wings of the eagle here, but otherwise it matches the leopard, the bear, the lion, all that stuff. And that, a lot of people believe that represents ages or periods of time where there was some sort of world domination. Hitler, Napoleon, Stalin, all that, all those kind of people, Nero back in the day, the Roman empires, stuff like that, where there was an attempt to make, or pretty close to world domination. And so some people believe that the leopard represents one of those, the bear, the lion, and the Persian, the Babylonians, and stuff like that they each represent some of those. Most of them are like I said, the Babylonians and the Persians and ones that and the Romans and stuff like that came into power before this would have been written and stuff like that. But we've also seen throughout history that there has been other, like I said, Hitler, and examples of some others that try to come to power and world domination. Okay, so we see that the beast has the same number of heads as the dragon had. Okay, one of the heads is fatally wounded. Oh, okay, yeah. One of the heads is fatally wounded, and so this beast should be dead, but it's not. It is, been healed of it, and so Most scholars believe that the Antichrist will be assassinated at some point, and that Satan himself will cause him to rise from the dead, and that's around this time that's going on now. And we see here that there's Satan gives the beast, or so that gives the Antichrist his power on the earth. All right, and but the fact that the head was healed, and that this beast that should be dead, or this person, as it'll be, it should be dead, but he's not anymore. He's risen. That causes a lot of people to follow him. His popularity surges and rises, and he gets to have overwhelming power, and he will be able to unite the world into one global government. It will be one economic system. Yeah, okay. Like I say, Satan gives him his power. Yeah, see, I'm out of order here. But Satan gives him his power, one of the heads, and his beast is fatally wounded. Okay. The recovery of the beast will cause many to follow him and worship him, as we've talked about. And his popularity will grow. He will unite the world in one government, one economic system, and basically just all the power. He will rule the world. Okay. Now the 10 heads will represent 10 empires or 10 kings of the world that exist now that will follow the beast and will unite and will be leaders of, and will help him lead and rule the world and stuff like that. So even under the Roman Empire, we saw that Caesar was the head of the Roman Empire, but he had governors, Pilate and others and stuff that he put in different regions. And so it'll kind of be the same thing. Is that there will be 10. It's believed that there will be 10 regions of the world that will be broken up, and and that each one will have a leader over that will report to the Antichrist and stuff. And so, but this, he will build a huge following and everything, worldwide peace and stuff. And God is going to grant Satan more freedom on the earth. So God's going to take a lot of the reins off of Satan. People believe and that it's bad now, but Satan's controlled. He's limited in what he can do by God. And he will, at this point, have the ability to go and to do what he wants. God's going to pretty well take the reins. I don't know that he will completely take the reins off of him, but he will allow him to go. It says right in the text we read that he will be given the power to make war against the people of God and to do what he wants. And he's going to give that power to the beast as well. And so,
won't that turn people away from God? Because God's giving the power to Satan, not keeping the power to protect his people.
It might. It possibly might, but I think that's part of the reason why we get the warning in verses 9 and 10 about the persecutions coming. Some people are going to be thrown in jail. Some people are going to die, but they're called to. And this is God's testing his people. God's seeing who's faithful, who's going to remain faithful. And so but I think it could definitely turn some people away and get, but so God's this is it's the plan. It's what God wants. He wants to see who's going to remain faithful throughout all kinds of stuff. So but and then we do see that verses 9 and 10 are one. But Satan's freedom does have a limit. He is limited. 42 months. It's very clear. He's only going to have the power for 42 months. At that point, Christ will be back, and there will be the battle and Satan will be locked away, and everything, all that stuff, and the 1,000-year reign, which I don't totally understand yet. I don't understand, and I'm researching that, but we will get to that, where there's a 1,000-year reign, where the final battle happens and Satan's locked away for 1,000 years, a millennium, and Christ is reigning on the earth. And then after that, it says that Satan is loosed for a period of time to try to deceive the nations again. I don't understand all that. I don't understand why, if you got him locked away, why is that not the end? Why is this, and stuff? And so, I don't know. I'm hoping, like I said, when I get to that point a little further, I've started looking at it a little bit, because I know it's coming, and I know I got a lot of questions about that. I hope that I'm praying I get a lot of clarity on that and see exactly why but I've actually had some preachers tell me that they don't think that is the right interpretation, that they don't even buy into the whole millennial reign thing. So, but I don't know. I gotta see. That's the big belief. But we'll talk about that when we get there. But this will. But his time is for 42 months, and then it's God. Then Jesus will be back at that point. And so, but the beast and Satan is gonna make war for the people of God, and there'll be a lot of people martyred, and persecution. And the persecution's coming, and we see that this verse he talks about those who have ears to hear, listen, and understand. Same way that all the letters were ended that we studied in the beginning of the book. Is that right? You guys remember that? He was always saying those that hear can, or those that can hear, listen, and take in the words of this letter and follow it and stuff like that. So they're encouraged to do that at that point and stuff. And so we're seeing the same command here in verse 9, is for those that are here to, able to hear, to listen and to understand. And so, and then, it's kind of a grim warning that, those people are going to be put in jail. People are going to be killed, and stuff. And so, that it's something that the believers at that time should be prepared to go through. And we should be prepared to go through. So that's, there's persecution happening all over the world, different forms. There's persecution happening in this country. It's just different forms. We got freedom to assemble and to do and whatever at this point in time. It might go away. We don't know. But we do have, we also have other ways that we're persecuted. Stuff. We've seen a change in society here over the last few years or whatever, that now if you speak out against things that are socially accepted or whatever, then people try to eliminate you. They try to take away your job, and they try to discredit you, and they try to, all that kind of, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And so speaking out against the some things that are socially accepted, and maybe even legally accepted in this world, in this country or whatever, you're seen as a problem, and they want to do away with you, and so they'll do everything they can. They'll try to ruin you, financially ruin you, and discredit you, and harm you any way that they can. And so we see that, and so we as believers should be prepared to stand against all persecution, even if it results in death. Okay. Questions about the beast from the sea, the first 10 verses here. Well, we roll on to the next one. Yes.
In my Bible here, I just thought I'd bring this up, where it mentions that the sea here represents the Gentile nations of the world from which this beast comes.
Okay.
So sea being like, sea of people instead of the ocean. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And that's very, I hadn't caught that in some of the commentaries, whatever. I know the next one about earth that some people believe that that's a group of people represented by the beast that comes out of the earth is the next one. And some people, but I hadn't seen that with the sea, but it's entirely possible. So, because I think that they feel that the beast is from the earth. I think they feel it's from the Jewish nation. So it would make sense that the sea would be the Gentile nations or whatever. But this one is gonna, the person is gonna rise out, and it is a person. It's the Antichrist. He's represented here as a beast, but he's it is gonna be a person that's gonna rule the world. We're not gonna see this crazy looking beast ruling the world. But it's, it'll be a person. So, any more questions, comments, thoughts? All right. Okay, verses 11 through 17. Then I saw another beast come up out of the earth. He had 2 horns, like those of a lamb, but he spoke with the voice of a dragon. He exercised all the authority of the first beast, and he required all of the earth and its people to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. He did astonishing miracles, even making fire flash down from heaven, from the sky, while everyone was watching. And with all the miracles he was allowed to perform on behalf of the first beast, he deceived all the people who belonged to this world. He ordered the people to make a great statue of the first beast, who was fatally wounded and then came back to life, and was permitted to give life to the statue so it could speak. Then the statue of the beast commanded that everyone refusing to worship it must die. He required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand or the forehead, and no one could buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name. Wisdom is needed here. Let the one with understanding solve the meaning of the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Okay? All right, so another beast rises out of the earth. Again, this is another people group. This one is going to assist. He's going to help. He's going to be the spiritual leader of the world. We have a one world government. We have a one world economy. We will have a one world accepted religion. And it'll be the religion of this beast that the Antichrist, whatever, be the serving the Antichrist. It'll be worshiping the Antichrist. It'll be total commitment to that person at the time. That'll be the religion. Okay. Some people have described it like a pope kind of figure, but it'll be somebody like that. This will be a spiritual leader. Call him what you want, pope, pastor, whatever, bishop, whatever you want to call him. This will be a spiritual leader of the world, and it will force everybody to obey and to worship the beast. Okay?
Well, that's perfect for the Pope that's in there now, because he's a Jesuit.
Okay, so
It's true, they're the worst.
Yeah. This beast copies many miracles that the 2 witnesses performed that we talked about. And he also comes in looking like a lamb. He's basically trying to copy all the things that God has done and the witnesses and everything. And he gets everybody to make a statue, which was also done in Daniel 3. We saw that where King Nebuchadnezzar ordered a statue be made of him, and then he ordered everybody to bow down to it when they heard the music, when they heard, some instrument play. And in Daniel 3, we saw that 3 Hebrew children, they were called, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refused to bow. They were thrown into the fiery furnace, but they didn't die, and they were brought out, and it was the furnace was so hot that the people that threw them in died, but that they didn't die. And so we see this happening again, and stuff. And so he's making it so that they're
Would that be
gonna
part of
worship the
Moses
beast.
also,
What's that?
would that be part of Moses when he went to get the 10 Commandments and the people there made
The golden calf?
the golden calf?
It might be, yeah, but they did that of their own, so they did that because they thought Moses had died on the mountain somewhere. They got tired of waiting for him to come back, so they, and as we saw throughout the Old Testament, Israel just turned their back on what
Yeah.
had already been done and everything. So yeah, so it's exactly so. But he will get everybody to worship the statue of the beast. He will be given the power. He also will have power from Satan as well. He'll be given the power to make the statue come to life and to speak. And that will just convince just so many people that this is for real, and stuff. And so, and all people will be required to obtain a mark. We've kind of touched on this, that this is coming at some point. You will not, at this point in time, you will not be able to buy or sell anything in the world. So, you basically got to kind of go underground and live without any access to food and anything. And so, and basically anybody that doesn't bow down and worship this statue, they want to, it says right in there, anybody that doesn't, the statue commands that anybody that doesn't bow down and worship it should be killed and stuff. And this spiritual leader, the beast, has power to bring fire down from heaven and to destroy people and stuff, just like the witnesses had power to, they breathe fire from their mouth whenever somebody tried to attack them and that kind of thing. So we see a lot of copycat stuff of the miracles that God has performed. Okay, so they're required to get the mark, obtain the mark, and you can't, you got to buy and sell things to survive. You got to bow down and worship it. Yeah, okay. Big warning with this, though. Big warning. Okay. Anybody who accepts the mark of the beast, as it's called, will not be allowed into the kingdom of heaven. Because you are choosing the world system over God at that point.
No exception.
Not that I'm aware of. So everything I read tells me that that's the case. That if you align, you submit, because basically if you take the mark and you're bowing down to this idol, then, and we're at the, in the final end days or whatever. So you're going to have a tough life, and it'll be tough for you to survive the 42 months until the very end, unless you're one of the protected ones in Petra or wherever it's going to be. So odds are, and that's why in verses 9 and 10 it does talk about that people will be thrown in jail, people will be persecuted, people will be probably tortured, people will be killed. Believers will be killed for it. So,
What would you talk about?
yeah, exactly. So, right, we're going to see in the next chapter that the people that do die are going to have, we're going to see what happens with them, and we're going to see them in heaven and stuff in the next chapter as well. But yeah, so because choosing the world over the one true God. Mark 8:36, Jesus' own words. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it here, but he basically says, if you choose the world, basically what a shame it would be to choose the world and lose your soul. It's a reference to everyday life. If you go choose the world over God, then you can lose your soul, because you're not, if you haven't accepted Christ. If you have accepted Christ and you truly accepted Christ, then you shouldn't be choosing the world's total system on everything and whatever. So yes, we got to go work. Yes, we got to do certain things in the world. But if you choose to follow the world and their beliefs and everything else over God, then you'll lose your soul. And so this is a big reference to. He was talking about end times and stuff in different places in the Gospels. And so this is definitely a reference to that. If you choose the world system, if you choose the mark and get it put on you, then you are choosing to give up your soul to hell. Okay. The 666, the 3 6s. He says here that use wisdom to figure it out. Okay. Commentaries I read on it, the number 6 is the number for man. There's a lot of numerology in the Bible. The number 7 represents the perfectness of God. So it's always falling short of God, first of all, because 6 comes before 7. And it's not as great as 7. And that the fact that there's 3 6s represents the dragon, the beast from the sea, and the beast from the earth. So these 3, so Satan himself and the Antichrist and his spiritual leader that will rise to assist and bring faith or whatever you want to say to those people. So that's the biggest thing I can find an agreement on exactly what the mark actually means. So the fact that, and again, that's another Trinity. That's another 3. Satan's copying so much of what God does. There's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, now there's the Satan, the Antichrist, and the spiritual leader. And so you're looking. He's trying to copy so much of what God does. Okay, so so we're gonna see it's gonna get bad. God's gonna loosen the reins on Satan. He'll have more freedom, more ability to be able to do stuff, and and he's going to take it out on the believers. And so, we got one more chapter, and then we'll get back to the judgments. The next chapter is going to give us more details about something about the end that we haven't totally seen yet, and we'll see some of what it'll look like for Christ's actual return. And then we got to go through the judgments, and then we will see the actual return and all the things that happen after that, and the judgments and all that stuff. So we're getting there. We're moving right along. We're over halfway through it now. I know it's taking a long time. My target is to have it completed by the end of the year. If I can keep on a chapter a week, I'll be done before then. But I don't know. Sometimes I've had to break it down into 2 or 3 lessons. So for each chapter. So questions, comments, concerns?
I read a commentary in regard